All right, it's been about a week since the last video. We had a lot of rain and got pretty cold, so couldn't do much out here. But when I could, I came back out and refilled and reshaped this with a little bit more fiberglass just to refine the shape a little bit. And as you can see, it turned out pretty well. So now what we got to do is put the cutlass bearing back in. And I was going to align that drive shaft a little bit better, but that's a little bit more work than I wanted to do. I would like to get back on the water. So we're just going to go with it. The other cutlass bearing seemed to have been just fine with that alignment. You know, worst case scenario, I'll replace it again next year and probably won't have to go through all these repairs. And it would only be an hour or so job. So let's get started. The back side here of the skeg is, you know, it's got these angles here, so that doesn't fit real nice up against that. And I didn't want to put any pressure here to create any more damage, so I've 3D printed a little spacer there, which I hope worked pretty well. So that's these, and you can see there's a little relief cut on either side. So hopefully that'll work pretty well. Zip tie that on. All right, see, that fits pretty. All right, there's that. This one, like so. That'll balance it out a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to put, well, I guess really we put the washers on and the acorn nuts, right? Put that one on, get this on. Get that tightened up, and then we'll do the same to this side. Let's put on. All right, now let's get the cutlass bearing on. Slide that on, get it lined up, and push it in as good as we can get it. And now, put this plate on. And I think we'll spin things around. That would be. All right, so let's get these tightened up. A little bit more epoxy right around here. Maybe that'll slide in there nice, I don't know, but it's enough to probably lubricate things a little bit. Ratchet, or a socket for my ratchet wrench it. So this should go a little bit faster, a little less clunking. And we'll just slowly push that puppy in there. Get in there. See how that looks. Goodness. pretty well. Oops. Whoops. There she goes. Yeah, I don't know what that's for. Yeah, that would do the same for this one. Maybe. It's harder. Alright, rest right there. Pull this off. Let's see. Yep. I don't think that'll go anywhere. Overkill on these, but it'll work. Alright. Might messed up that. Oh, we good. Yeah. I can live with that. So what I'm gonna do is put some epoxy in there with it so it stays seated real nice. Doesn't come out. Let's give it a nice full amount there. Starting from the inside and working our way out. Screw in. It's going to push out when we put our screw in. And hopefully it's going to push a little bit around the cutlass bearing. We'll see. It's going to drip out a little bit. We know that for sure. So I'm going to give it a quick push there. And just since I can't get too much leverage on it with the angles and everything, I'm going to give it another turn with the wrench. And I don't want to deform anything, right? That brass is pretty hard, so I'll give it a little bit extra, like so. Get some thickened epoxy on there. All right, that'll stay on there a little bit better. So, that won't go anywhere. Give it a nice base. And we'll use our dirty yellow rag to clean up. Because nothing cleans up better than a dirty yellow Costco rag. Right? Great. There. Yeah, so I'm kind of impressed with the extraction tool. It's a little bit pricey. I think that was like $400. But if I wouldn't have had to make any of the epoxy repairs, you know, it probably would have spent an hour and a half taking out the bearing, putting in a new bearing, and getting everything glued back in place and seated. I think that's probably the way to go. I don't know how I would have gotten it out without that tool, to be real honest. I know that you can get a oscillating saw and put in there, but that would have required taking out the drive shaft, and I didn't want to take out the drive shaft because that's a process in itself. I'd have to take off the rudder. So I think that was the way to go. You know, and again, if there wouldn't have been any fiberglass repair, that process would have been about an hour, hour and a half for a backyard boat maintenance project. That's really good. And it costs less than $1,000, right? So we're already ahead if you stick with the jokes. Next steps, I'm going to put a heater down and get that epoxy to cure up so that I can go ahead and finish doing the bottom paint. And then she's ready to go back in the water after the propeller goes back on.